100 Pounds Down is proudly brought to you by my agency, JKD Global. This is your time to let loose and experience the transformative power of travel. I spent more than a decade as an administrator for a billion-dollar nonprofit prior to becoming a travel advisor. So I uniquely understand the demands and pressures of your everyday and the need for restorative experiences that nourish you, mind, body, and soul. From guided tours and luxury cruises, group and solo expeditions, to all-inclusive resorts where every detail is taken care of, I design experiences that transcend the ordinary and help you find the balance and renewal you deserve. JKD Global Travel, curating moments of purposeful immersion for professionals to recharge, recenter, and reconnect with what matters most. Start your journey at jkdtravel.com. Welcome back to 100 Pounds Down, where we preach the gospel of GLP-1 and the word is good. I'm Kristin DiBiase, and after a lifetime of struggling with obesity, I lost over 41% of my body weight on tirzepatide, also known as Mounjaro and Zepbound, and I'm never going back. If you're considering starting an anti-obesity medication like this, Ozempic or Wegovy, you're already in the middle of your journey, or you're getting to that maintenance phase and wondering, what comes next? Bring it in. Well, hey, everybody. I know it has been a hot minute since I have been on here. I honestly was not back at 100% when we came back from our vacation. And so I've been taking it a little easy because if I don't, I will get sick and then things will not be optimal for me. And so I really wanted to be able to take some time while we were gone on our cruise in order to have a very special guest come on our show, my husband, Jason. Unfortunately, I was just honestly exhausted while we were on our trip. And so I didn't go as hard as I even usually do when I'm taking a cruise or I'm going on a vacation someplace. I really decided to pamper myself a little bit and take it a little more easy. And we just had a really good laid back time on the ship. So I did not end up recording with him while we were there. However, I have now taken the opportunity to have him come on, and I'm excited for you to meet him and hear a little bit about his story, where he's come from, and how he feels about going on the journey on GLP-1s. So without further ado, let's get to it. So I'm really excited because we finally get to meet my husband, Jason. Say hey, Jace.
Hello. Hello.
This is my husband. We have been together almost 12 years.
Feels like forever. Yeah, 12 years. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be married 10 in October.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought we would try something different. I was saying that we were going to try to do something where we would film while we were out on our cruise. But honestly, I was just exhausted going into that. And so we really just decided to enjoy ourselves. And I probably slept a little more than we usually do. But I thought it was a really good experience compared to cruises like we've been on before. Do you think?
Yeah, it was a great time. So we went on Virgin. It was my first time there. I'd never cruised before I met Kristin, and she got me in cruising. And it was a lot of fun. We were a little bit worried about how, with it being adults only, we're going to have a lot of crazy kids drinking a lot. But it really wasn't that at all. It was a bunch of cool people. The vibe was great. Plenty of alcohol, but everybody controlled themselves and within reason. So it was a lot of fun. I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
So I think one of the biggest things for me in terms of this trip that we've been on is just how different it was from our other trips, because this is like the first trip that we've done where we have been substantially smaller since we've been taking the juice. So I think I mentioned at some point that we call it, between the pair of us, we call it the juice, Joose,
Juice is loose.
the juice. So I know that people have heard about you. I've talked about you quite a bit, but why don't you kind of share what your background and your journey has been before you started taking GLP-1s, babe?
So, I'm old. So when I was a kid, when I was growing up, I joke with my best friend. We've been friends for 40 years.
That's crazy.
As a kid, he and I were super active, and we didn't have like Nintendo or Sega Genesis. So if we had, who knows? But so all we did was burn calories all day by running around, playing sports. So then high school came about. I got into a lot of sports, football. I was really into football. I injured myself pretty badly. My knee, I kind of blew up all my ligaments and tendons in one of my knees. And so at that point, that's where the weight started creeping up on me, because I went from doing practices and just running around to really not burning much, but still eating that way. And, I'm Italian, so my love language is food. I like to feed everybody around me. If you're not hungry, just one plate. And if you're hungry, well, then that's a plate and a plate. So the weight kind of crept on through my 20s, and I got bigger and bigger. And then really, I think I was in my 30s, and I got to my heaviest weight, which, Kristin's, I think, going to show you that picture.
Yeah, we'll put a picture up here. This is before he and I met.
It's titled "Very Fat Jason." But I was over 500. It was unbelievable. I like to joke, I had the world's only size 7X Nike shirt. So I hit rock bottom. At the time, my insurance though was really good. So I ended up with gastric bypass surgery, the Roux-en-Y, the old school, as Kristin calls it, the Cutty-Uppies.
The Cutty-Uppies.
So I got that. I lost a bunch of weight. I probably lost over 100 pounds. But then I gained most of it back because the issue that a lot of people don't speak about with weight loss is I treated the symptoms and not the cause, which is what many of us do, right? Especially in the kind of the Western way of medicine and surgery is like, okay, let's treat all these issues.
When you did the Roux-en-Y surgery, that was like the very beginning when they were first doing it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and
so they didn't even have like the psych part of it, right?
Right. So what they did was they gave a buddy somebody who went through it, and they kind of paired up with you before the operation and then after. And I remember my buddy, she had lost a bunch of weight. It was like she was like a year and a half out. But she was saying it's great because now I can eat a Burger King Whopper, no problem. And at the time I'm thinking, that's gonna be great. I'll have a burger later down the line. I'll be slim like her or whatever. But no, there was no real psych attached. They didn't really. Honestly, my doctor was all about the procedure. Like I did a lot of research. He was the best surgeon in the Midwest that I could find. And so luckily I got through it. Zero complications. I had zero pain coming out. I really thought something was wrong because they give you like a gallon of liquid Vicodin. Didn't need any of it. And so, but I couldn't really eat well, it's how it gets you. But so there was none of that. None of these approaches.
Okay. None. When I had mine, they had this whole program beforehand where they're like, you've got to go through counseling. You got to, even if you only are looking to lose like a certain amount, even if you also have your own therapist, they still made you go with their counselor on top of your own therapist.
Which is how it should be done.
Yeah. So we had therapy sessions. We had to lose a bunch of weight on our own, beforehand, before we even did the gastric bypass surgery. And as I've mentioned briefly before, when I did my surgery, I was not a successful Roux-en-Y surgery. I lost as much weight on my own in the lead up to surgery as I did on the surgery itself. I only lost like 40 pounds or some such from the actual surgery itself before I started regaining. But so back to you, babe.
No, that's fine. And now this is all, keep in mind, this is all anecdotal. This is from me and my experiences, but there were a bunch of people in my family group and friends group that had it. and all of them failed because they didn't have the proper tools, and then they didn't get to the cause. So it's like you having lung cancer and they give you medicine for the cough. Well, the cough's going to come back. I mean, inevitably it's going to come back unless you treat the cancer. So this is what I was finding, because I am in the medical field, but at that point I was on the more of the clinical side as a respiratory therapist. So these things were important to me when I was looking through it. So there was looking back now, it was never going to be a victory for me. I was never going to take it and keep off this weight. And so many people on bariatric wise or even sleeve wise now don't, unless they get the underlying root cause looked at. And if you're on this channel and you're liking these videos and you are of a mindset, you want to know answers, you want to get all the data, you kind of have that scientific lean to you, and you're probably at some point at least struggling with weight. And many people who don't struggle with weight ever, they don't understand what we go through. I mean, when I was over 500 pounds, my best friend, he said, "Oh man, I bet everybody was making fun of you and mocking you." I said, "No, I was completely invisible." You get to a certain weight, people don't even want to look at you or acknowledge you. They're too uncomfortable. He kind of looked at me like, "Oh, wow." And I said, "Yeah, it's just one of the things that happens, And then if you're not big, and as you go up these different sizes, and I'm sure many of you can relate, different levels of help, you hear, eat less, move more. Through my kind of journey through this, at that point, Roux-en-Y was done. I had a few years back, I was gaining it. So then I really got into weightlifting, and powerlifting. I thought this is the way it was going to be. Well, really, a lot of people who say they powerlift, they just like to lift heavy weights and eat a lot. So for me, I was just kind of feeding the fire without really understanding what I was doing. So yeah, I was lifting, but I was also eating a lot, and I wasn't addressing anything. Obviously, when you have a lot of unresolved issues, you're going to struggle no matter what. And so with Kristin, we decided we need to go to therapy. So my first time in therapy, we went to couples therapy, and then I went on my own, and it was some of the hardest work I've ever done in my life, but I'm alive now. I truly believe I'm alive now because that therapy brought me to a proper mindset and understanding and a perspective. And if you're watching us right now, and if nobody's told you this before, because it was new to me too when I went, you deserve to have a happy, joyful life. And the sentence right there. You deserve that. And many of us who struggle with this weight, we don't believe that. We just don't. And it's people, there's a benevolence out there. People are benevolently hurtful to us when they don't understand. When we can go out and eat 1,500 calories something in the size of a pack of playing cards that are chemically designed to make us hungrier at the end of it, what choice do we have if we don't kind of look down into the root causes? So for me, it was a lot of intensive therapy, and then really understanding that I had worth, and because we don't get that told to us enough. Any of us of any size don't get that enough in our lives from other people. We really need to understand we deserve it. We deserve to be happy, fulfilled, joyful, all of that. So I realized that. And then we started losing weight. It was still a struggle because it was hard. It's still hard.
We did it a bunch of times too. I
Yeah.
mean, there was the...
I think both you and I have lost hundreds of weight. And I'm sure, I bet many of you who are watching this have yo-yoed too. And
there was that period where we were training for a 5K.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We did the 5K.
We did the 5K. We did the running stuff. And there was when you started doing the lifting again, but you were looking at it from a really scientific viewpoint and kind of changing how you were doing all of that. That was a period where that was just you. I was not at that point in a place where I could gird myself up to do all of the work around losing again. I was kind of in between one of like the 5 times that I had done this.
Yeah.
I think that this is really different because it's been a couple of tries for me, at least, until we have done this together this time around.
Yeah. People talk about the GLPs, all the variants as a game changer, but it's not. It's a life changer. And when we talk about food noise, people don't understand that, who are not like our size or have struggled. They don't understand, like, oh, I joke and I'm like, yeah, back in the day when I was making food, I'd make a mini sandwich while I made my big sandwich. And then I'd be thinking about what am I going to have for lunch and what kind of snacks I'm going to have today. That food noise that gets in you, it doesn't matter what you're eating, you're already thinking ahead. So with these medicines that are medicines, these are just like, I went from having hypertension and diabetes and all these other kind of comorbidities. And now all I have now is I have a little anemia, but I had that before. So as long as I'm staying on course now and I'm taking, nutrition's big too on this, because if you're on this journey with her and I, then you understand it can be really hard to get the food in some days. So for me, she took it for about 3 months before I did, because I just wasn't sure. I just wasn't ready for it.
At that point in time, I remember I was really digging into everything and looking at all of, the science about it. I was reading through the studies. I was digging around in the medical journals and all of that. And I said, I think I'm going to actually try this. It's from Lily. It seems like it's been promising. People are starting to see just some crazy numbers percentage wise of what they're about to lose. And yeah, he wasn't ready at that point. He definitely said, like, I don't know. I don't really know. But
yeah,
I think I was probably 2.5-ish months in. And by that point, I mean, I had a response kind of right away from like the first week that I was taking it. My body did, like, I dropped some water weight very quickly. And as people have heard from me on my various, episodes that I've done, I'm a super responder. So I was getting really good, pretty decently consistent results of a couple of pounds or so a week. And so at the 2.5 month mark, I mean, we're looking at about 20-ish pounds by that point, which that's a lot, and so then he kind of looked and said, oh, hey, like, what is this about? Maybe I should check it out.
Yeah. So yeah, then I started taking it, and a lot of times you start off with that 2.5, you don't lose any weight. I did. I dropped, I think, 15 pounds in that first 30 days, but I was a big old mother fluffer. So I had lots of love to give. So it came off. And then, I've broken 100 pounds now. I've been on it for about a year, I think. I'm at 15 milligrams. I've always been somebody who responds a little less, to medicines like painkillers or whatnot. And a lot of times I just don't need those things. So I think I respond fine, but my tolerance, that's what I'm trying to say. My tolerance is a little higher, I think. But so I'm on the 15 milligram. I'm at, I think this morning I weighed in like 222. I'm at 222. So
that's great, babe.
Yeah, because before I started this 2.5 years ago, I was 360 pounds still. And now I'm at a point where with these medicines, which are a lifelong endeavor, which is I'm totally cool with, unless something changes. But the only thing I see in the future with these medicines is they're going to get more refined. They're going to get better, more effective, less side effects. You can already see it now. And I'm sure you're all just like her. You're all nerds in your own way, and that's great. I love all you for it. Because I'm on that train now too. You see, especially with AI coming out, how it's going to help develop even better. And Lily's got a whole new set coming out. They just opened up that giant production facility. So it's going to be put in the water. I feel like this is something that can be put in the water, but so I'm very happy. It's worth every penny. People ask us, it's so expensive. And I'm like, yeah, it is. But is your life, your happiness? Yeah, I know it sounds all dramatic, but it's true. It's just, we're doing things now that I just can't believe that I'm doing. I like the one big difference between her and I is I love when we go somewhere here's one. We went to, like, we love traveling. We went to Vancouver last year or year before, and I love to walk. When we go somewhere, I like to put my feet on the ground and walk everywhere.
I hate it.
She hates it, but I had her this couple weeks ago. We had some friends visit, and so we met them. We were downtown Seattle, and you were busy in a convention or a seminar or class.
And she was too.
And my best friend's wife was too. She was in town for one of those. So
yeah, that was it was the graduation weekend.
Yeah. So me and my friend and his son, we hoofed it because they're both walkers too. And it was just great. And there's no pain. That's another thing too. When you're big, you have a lot of joint issues. You have a lot of pain, and it hurts to walk.
Yeah. And that was one of the reasons why I could not stand it. And so that's honestly, like, let's talk about some of the changes and things, and especially when you're both losing kind of together at the same time, like how that is. Because I think for us, that is a major piece. Like one of the things that I've noticed about me, and I'm sure you've noticed it too, is I'm so used to stuff being a certain way from when I was bigger, when I was heavier, when I had more joint pain, when I had more inflammation. And it's just not in my nature to have done some of those things. Like I hate sweating so much. It's a huge pet peeve of mine, you know? And so and it would hurt for me to walk. My feet are completely flat. I have all of these reasons why I just did not enjoy doing physical activity because it would hurt. I mean, and it's one of those things where you're so used to doing that for so long that when those things aren't there anymore, you're just really still in that same thing. And that's, I mean, yeah, like, so we were walking around down there, and that would not have been my inclination whatsoever. I'm absolutely the first person to think like, oh, let's hop in an Uber or a Lyft or whatever to get places.
You were 4 martinis deep too. So, you were stumbling out. No,
he was lying.
Yeah, I was 4 Guinness deep, but yes. So yeah, you
I
definitely
had one and I didn't even finish it. That's one of the things I can't really drink very much at all.
Yeah.
After I had bariatric surgery, that was a thing, but that has continued for me, especially now that I'm on the GLP-1s. That's kind of how it impacted me. So I ask for, if we do drink, I ask for a light pour, because I like how they taste. But that alcohol will just it just makes me go to sleep.
Yeah. And you'll find that too. If you're one to imbibe and you're on this, you'll find drinks that you like and you can tolerate better. And then also the light pour, which that was my little advice for you for our next trip. Is always a great option for me. Like I've always loved Guinness, and I know how Guinness affects me, because you have to be really wary, especially when you're first starting this and you want to knock back a drink that you might normally have had before, and it's no problem. And we're here. Here's a quick example. I was out back in our yard doing whatever yard work and stuff. And then I think you were gone on one of your trips, brought the dog out back. I had a beer. I got one little special IPA. I blame all my friends, especially Craig and Leland. They're always into these fancy IPAs. So I got one and I started drinking it, just sitting back and letting the dog run around. And I could tell within half that can, I was already starting to feel drunk.
Wow.
And I was like, this is crazy. And then I checked the can, and it was pretty high. I mean, ABV, alcohol levels, like 9%. So it's like twice a Guinness. So anyway, all that to say that when you're on this journey, you're going to realize real quick how alcohol affects you. And then just titrate that and you'll be fine. But yeah, so like she was saying, with walking, you were coming out and you didn't have any pain. We walked back.
Yeah, I didn't. And that's the part that's just, it's hard for me because I'm so used to shying away from certain things, either from pain or from being self-conscious about things. And I don't have to anymore. And you just forget that's not how things are anymore. And so for me, that's been one of the pieces where, he's had to really remind me a lot of the time. So when you are losing together, and maybe like with us, there was a bit of a delay, right? So
Yeah.
in the beginning, when you weren't on it, and also when you had first started it and I was at a higher dosage, one of the things that we were really running into that would be kind of frustrating for him, is so I would just have no appetite at some places. And even before, honestly, before I even started taking the medication, we have always had this thing where, oh, what do you want to have for dinner? I don't know. What do you want? I don't know. What do you want? And it's just
every couple everywhere,
right?
All the time.
But it'd be a thing where we used to spend so much time. A lot of the things that we would do would be around food.
Yeah.
And I mean, like he and I can sit and just talk and be goofy and ridiculous. And we'll have a great time together doing that.
A little bit. Yeah.
But it's just like, I mean, we just did so much of that with food involved. And so when I had no appetite, it'd be like, how was that for you?
I mean, well, it's frustrating, but I mean, it's not your fault, of course. It's just you get used to a system. You go out, you have a lot of food, you just kind of eat, you jaw jack, and have fun. And like if you're like for us, we would go out and I'd beg her to come out. Let's go watch a Seahawks game or something, you know. And we go to like a wing place, Buffalo Wild Wings, whatever. You can sit and just order some wings here and there and just eat. Or even before then, I took a picture of it. It was so funny. We were going out. And this fool ordered 3 entrees because she just wanted a little taste of everything. And then she'd bring home all these stacks of things. But
that's when we were dating.
Yeah.
I will find that photo and throw that photo.
It was funny, but
it's because I wasn't gonna eat all of it. I was the queen of boxes. I would bring home a box all the time with stuff.
But 3 entrees is 3 entrees.
There were 3 because I wanted to taste. We were crazy.
No,
and
you were.
When we first started
I was
dating
nuts. You were
too.
crazy.
Yeah. Well, there was the whole happy fat thing as well. That's a thing.
Oh,
I
of
mean,
course.
we definitely put weight on.
You enable one another. Like, oh God, we're gonna be together. Give me them Twinkies. Jeep,
Right.
Or
yeah.
snatch a muffin or whatever.
Well, let's talk about, I mean, like how we even met in the first place was just ridiculous. So we met randomly on Twitter.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, that sexy vitamin D talk.
I literally, we had a person in common who we both knew.
Yeah.
And I saw her talking to some guy about vitamin D.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he was on like a really high dosage, like 50,000 IU or something. And you know how Twitter is for people that used to use Twitter before it became the dumpster fire that it currently is. You see people in conversation, you butt into their conversation, all of that. And I was like, what? Is your doctor on crack or something? That's so high. Like, you shouldn't be doing that unless you've got like some kind of an autoimmune disorder or like a really like bad deficiency or something. And he was like, oh, I do. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, I'm like, who's this fool? Who are you? Why are you? I'm not talking to you. I am. It's Twitter, and I just don't know anything. So, yeah, that's how we met, through talking about stuff like that. And then, so that's how we met. But as far as the food goes, from day one, we were big. Then
we were eating.
We liked to eat.
We were both very like big,
and we were at that time. We were in the Midwest, and it's like food is there's bigger portions. It's just. That's what we did. You go out to eat, and then that's what we did. So
and we loved movies. We would go to the movies a ton, and then go to like Steak and Shake right after.
And listen, every red-blooded American got popcorn and soda when you went.
You always get the snacks,
but then you got to get something sweet to offset the the goodness of the popcorn. So 5,000 calories later.
Oh God.
They were like,
Yeah.
let's go to Steak and Shake. Steak and Shake's a fast food burger joint. If you don't, not familiar with it, it's really good, but it's fast food.
But I would also, when I was there, I would get
God.
3 junior size of the little shakes because I wanted to take. I did a lot of multiple stuff.
She ate a lot. She liked to have little grabs of this and that. Oh, what's this like? And then 19 boxes we're bringing home.
Yeah, in the very beginning, like we were out of control, honestly.
But I mean, we were just like a lot of couples are that way, I think,
Yeah, and so after the point that I had decided I'm gonna really turn things around, and I started like doing the calorie counting and all of that. That's when it got into that place.
Oh, and before I forget, sorry to interrupt you, but before I forget, COVID, of course, COVID. And we ate like fools because that's all we could. I mean, I don't know about any of you, but we're like, we could die any day. Let's watch let's watch the mail and then go get like a whole brisket and 4 banana breads.
It was bad. I mean, I had at that point, I had been maintaining about 75?
I don't know.
I was about maybe 75-ish pounds down on keto and intermittent fasting. And then the pandemic hit. And that was a time where I was like, I definitely ate my way back up for sure. I mean,
that's what we did.
I was looking for all of my comfort foods from when I was young. I hadn't had SpaghettiOs or Trix in like who knows when, and that's all I ate like every day for at least 2 months.
Yeah, it was a lot. And our neighbors were awesome where we lived, and he's a brewer.
Yeah.
So I'd be out there, and I'd get all these different beers, which are delicious, but an IPA is like 300 calories for a can or whatever, a serving, so 8 ounces. So that for me, you add that on. So so anyway, COVID nailed us good. Then we just plumped up, but then we're back here now. Now bring it back to where we're talking about walking and physical things. And I think to add a little piece to that, and I'm sure a lot of you know this already, but there's a lot of body dysmorphia, but it's not just how you look. I don't know what to call it, but it's also that feeling of you feel like your body's you don't like the way you look, you still think you're fat, but also you still think you're sore and you can't do things, like you feel limited when you shouldn't feel limited. But it's hard until you start doing these things like walking, or for me, I've always been a little luckier than Kristin that way. I've always been active, and like I'm always walking our dog. I'm always getting 10,000 steps in a day because the dog needs her walks. And then I have, I'm the one that kind of putters around the house and cleans up and does the yard work. So that way it's been easier for me to realize like the changes in my body of how easier it gets. The one thing I did notice, and maybe some of you have noticed this already too, but my feet went through a phase of hurting as my weight came down.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like my bones kind of readjusted, or the tendons loosened, or a different way, because I had a couple months where I was like, oh my gosh. And I got all the different sneakers, the Hokas, the On Clouds, the New Balances, the Nikes, anything I could think of to change it all. Cause we're, I'm an REI type of guy and a North Face type of guy. I mean, we live out in the Pacific Northwest. It's kind of what you do. So, I'm getting all these different shoes and supports. Nothing helped. And I was really getting worried. But then it just kind of went away after a while. And now I haven't had pain in forever, and I walk even more now. And sometimes I'll do a little jog with our dog. So it's just, that's something else. I feel like the body dysmorphia is real. It's going to be with you for a long time, I think.
I still am having it on occasion.
We both have it now.
Yeah. It's
just natural. So just for us, I think a good practice I've learned through therapy is just, the whole mindfulness thing is I just kind of do, for me, I'll do a checklist. Whenever I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling down or depressed, or I find myself getting caught up in like, what are the neighbors? I don't do that much, but sometimes you might think and be jealous. Jealousy is normal. Then I go through my own checklist of what I'm grateful for and what I have. And like I tell Kristin, if we're all of us here, you're talking to us, we're talking to you, like we've won. All of us have suffered through traumas and had setbacks and struggles and current challenges. So when we talk about these different like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I do a little checklist of like, okay, well, I've got my health is really good right now, overall, relatively speaking. I've got, Kristin, I got a great partner in life. We've got a crazy cat. We got a loving dog. We have good friends. We have good family. Those small things, but they add up. That's all you need. I could tomorrow, her and I could be living in a tiny apartment. And I can tell you right now, I truly wouldn't care. I'd be happy because
I'd drive him insane.
Oh yeah. Well, you'd be working.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And I'd be, I would be too, but I'd be cloistered in my tiny little work from home office somewhere. But it's those small things. That's all. It's just kind of taking everything into account and realizing how good we may have it. I try to keep my mind focused here, but also globally too. And just think we need to make sure we need to treat ourselves right, because no matter what happens, there's going to be stress in all of our lives. So I used to always let that stress, allow me to eat or sabotage, any part of my life that way. So that's another thing.
It just makes it a lot easier with the medication to be
Yeah.
able to not have to deal with some of that as much. I know between the pair of us, you have more struggles with like emotional eating or those pieces around things than I do.
But this medicine has really helped me with that too. Before, because for my mental health issues too, I have a little bit of an adjustment mood disorder. It just takes me a little longer to get to center again, no matter what the emotional range goes. So once I realized that after, I was diagnosed with it, now I'm mindful of it. So with this medicine, that food noise kind of goes away. And so my whole thing of I'm angry, I'm going to eat, it's not really there. I'm bored, I'm going to eat. Well, no, I'm not. But the other thing I want to say about this too is if you're feeling hungry, if you have true hunger, you need to eat. And you're going to feel sometimes, at least I did, gluttonous, where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. I just ate a full Subway sandwich or something. And I had, a cookie afterwards or something. But then the next day I lost 4 pounds. And I truly, and I have no science to back this up. This is your boy, Dum here, thinking out loud now. There have been times there are times I've eaten like all my calories, like at one sitting. And because I was so hungry. And that's the thing, our bodies will tell us, they really will. And now they don't have that fog in there. Yeah. There are times when you'd be like, oh my, I just want all the cake. Well, if you get like a little piece of cake and you have some, you're going to be amazed at how quickly you become full or sated with it. So yeah, anyway, for me, the emotional eating, that kind of, it's always kind of in the background, but it's manageable. It's easy. Like, no, I don't want to eat that, but I also found during this journey, sometimes I feel there are days where you'll eat so little calories, your body at some point is going to rev up and say, hey, idiot, today we're going to house that sandwich and we're going to have this or whatever. And your mind's going to go, oh, I can't have that. I'm on this medicine. It's supposed to block me from all that. No, it doesn't block you at all from that. And that's a good thing. It helps us manage our intake and manage all those things that go on in our mind that make us or compel us to overeat. So that's what would happen to me. I'd eat like what I thought would be a lot. But for a daily caloric amount, it still kind of hit the normal buttons. And that for me was usually a signal of I'm going to have a little bit of a bigger weight loss in the next day or two. And sure enough, almost every time it happened. And I'd say once every cycle. So once every 30 days, I'd have like at least a day of that. And then I would lose like 4 or 5 pounds, the next weigh-in, which is usually the day after. So if you're having that, that's my story in that. So take that. It's anecdotal, but I've also just through reading, like through the subreddits or through other places like that, YouTube, it seems to happen to quite a few of us. So if that's kind of scaring you, it's okay. Being scared means you're being mindful. And that's good because you need to be mindful on this, But now with this, it's helped me get back to a healthier center. And I think just like with you and with all of you who are on this or starting your journey, welcome. It's the best family ever. You'll find that and you'll experience it too as you go through. And you just got to trust the process. It takes time, but you just got to trust that process. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Well, yeah, I'm glad that you were able to come on the show today, babe.
I had some time.
Get to meet everybody. There's definitely stuff that's different in your journey than what is happening in my journey or what happened in my journey. So I think it's really valuable for people to be able to hear from somebody else. And I think it's important to be able to hear from a man, because I'm not one. And we know that there's a lot of differences.
No, you're not. No.
Well, surprise. We've been married 10 years. Yeah.
Two things before I leave. I just want to reinforce again. If you're watching this, and as corny as it sounds, and I'm a corny mofo if you know me, my employees would say the same thing because I'm the same way to them. But you deserve to be happy, have a fulfilling life. This medicine is not a cheat. This medicine is not a cop-out. It is medicine. It is the benefits of science that people didn't have 40 years ago, 10 years ago. So the people who don't understand, they don't understand. Some of them are ignorant. Some of them are haters. Doesn't matter. Don't worry about them. You've got a whole new family, and the people around you, it's your opportunity to let them know what's going on and how your health is being affected by that. So just remember that if you take away anything from this, you deserve to be happy. Another thing, quick, about working out and physical activities, do things that you like. That's the best thing I can tell you to do. I like to walk. I like to hike and an adventure like that. I also like kettlebells. I like to hit things. So I have a body bag. I have a heavy bag. Fun things like that. That's all. Dancing. You know what I mean? If you like to go on adventurous vacations, you're going to walk a lot. Go to a theme park. You're going to walk a lot. So that's it. Keep it fun no matter what you do. Try to have as much fun as you can.
So that is the tea on my husband, Jason, and how he started out his journey and how we are going on this journey together. If you think that GLP-1 medication could be right for you, absolutely talk to a medical professional, especially an endocrinologist or an obesity medicine specialist, because those are the people who know these kinds of meds the best. As always, we, not just me, are just everyday people who are sharing their own opinions and their own experiences on this medication. We are not doctors, and we are not sponsored by or representatives of any pharmaceutical company. And as always, if you enjoy the content that is coming out on this channel, or you would like to support us, absolutely, please hit that trifecta. Like, subscribe, notifications, and we'll see you on the other side. Goofball.